Hi, my name is Shelby and welcome to Little Coffee Fox. If you're just dipping your toes into lettering for the first time, then you're probably looking for the materials that you need in order to really get started. Well, I have been lettering for over 5 years. I have tested and tried tons of different pens, markers, and other supplies. And in this video, I want to share with you my favorite recommendations for beginners. Now, before you run out and buy a bunch of new supplies, first, let's discuss what lettering is all about. There are a few common terms that are often thrown around regarding this hobby, and it's important to understand what those terms mean and how they are distinct from each other. First, there's lettering or hand lettering. These terms refer to the general art of hand designing letters or words, particularly in a more modern style. You'll also hear brush lettering. Brush lettering is a subcategory of hand lettering. What sets brush lettering apart from every other kind of lettering is that it uses a brush pen or a paintbrush to create the letters. A few other terms you might run across are calligraphy, pointed pen calligraphy, or nib calligraphy. All of these are specifically referring to these kinds of pens. These are the old-fashioned metal nibs. You often see these in period movies or dramas. Sometimes you see people using them for things like wedding calligraphy. Sometimes people use the word calligraphy to refer to general hand lettering. And while that's not necessarily incorrect, people tend to, in large part, refer to calligraphy when they're talking about this kind of lettering, or for old-fashioned or more traditional methods. Nowadays, most people tend to refer to modern styles of lettering as lettering. In this video, I'm only going to be talking about the materials you need for lettering and brush lettering, not nib calligraphy. That's a whole different enchilada that requires its own video and its own dedicated list of items because it's very specialized. So for this video, we're just doing modern styles. All right, so what do you actually need to begin hand lettering? If you can't afford to go out and buy a whole bunch of new supplies right now to get started with this new hobby, then congratulations. I have good news for you. You really don't need to. You don't actually need all that much to get started. In fact, you probably have everything you need already in your own home. Of course, you need paper. You can use regular copy paper, although lined, gridded, dot gridded, anything like that with structure is desired. You need some kind of a pencil, mechanical or traditional is fine. And then of course you're gonna need some kind of pen. Now you can use just about whatever pen you have lying around, but I have found that bullet tip pens or felt tip pens tend to perform best. So if you have any of those lying around, definitely grab them. And last but not least, if you are wanting to jump into brush lettering or experiment with it, but you're not ready to go out and buy a bunch of brush pens, then grab some Crayola markers. Crayola markers are actually pretty good at replicating the feel of brush lettering. The only caveat is that you have to be willing to kind of apply a little bit of extra pressure to those markers, and it might wear them down a bit faster than you expected. And that's it. That's really all you need to just jump in with lettering. You don't need a ton of fancy supplies. You don't need a whole bunch of expensive stuff. You just basically need paper, some pens and pencils, maybe some Crayola markers, and you can jump in and begin learning the techniques, the steps, and developing a style for yourself with very little materials. But I imagine you didn't come to this video for me to tell you to just grab whatever you have around your house. You're probably looking for some actual product recommendations, which I'm more than happy to provide. So if you are looking to go out and buy some stuff for your hand lettering or brush lettering hobby, then here are my favorite recommendations that are very, very beginner friendly. First and foremost is the Sakura Pigma Micron Drawing Pens. You can buy these in a set and they come in a variety of nib sizes from very, very, very small to decently bold and chunky lines. These are probably some of the first pens that I ever got, and I have continued to rebuy them over and over again because they are really just that good. Then, in the same vein, there is the Sakura Pigma brush pens, which are the same brand, the same general structure of pen, but they have a small brush nib tip, which is great for brush lettering. Now, the Micron drawing pens, I'm not entirely sure if they come in just black or if they do come in a variety of colors, but I can tell you for sure that the brush pens from Sakura do come in a variety of colors. So if you want to get some new colors and build up a collection of, a rainbow of brush pens, You can do that with Sakura's. Next, another brand that's sort of similar is the FaberCastell Pit Artist Pens. Again, these come with a range of drawing pens with a variety of nib sizes, and again, they come in a set. But also there are certain sets that you can get that have the FaberCastell brush pens as well, which I really like. You can kind of get a gamut of different kinds of pens, which is a really good bang for your buck when you're still experimenting and trying stuff out. So you can get drawing pens and brush pens in the same set. Next, the Tombow dual brush pens. This one is a staple for beginner brush letterers. And the reason why is because they have such a nice, big, chunky tip. It makes it really, really great for practicing the movements that you need in your arm and your shoulder to really master the flow of brush lettering. You can do that with smaller brush pens, of course, but I think that the really, really big tip helps beginners conceptualize those movements and really build up that muscle memory in a way that is maybe a little bit harder with smaller pens. Plus, Tombows come in a huge range of colors, lots of different fun sets so you can mix and match and figure out what works for you. And they are dual tip pens, which means that on the butt end of the brush is a big fat bullet tip pen, which I love to use for all kinds of things. I've used these pens for brush lettering, of course. I've used them for bullet journaling, and I've used them for things like notes because they're kind of great highlighters as well, and you can take colorful notes with the bullet tip. Anyway, it's just a really great brush pen for beginner letterers, no matter what you're wanting to learn specifically. It covers everything. Another great option from the Tombow brand is the Tombow Fudnosuki brush pen. These are much smaller brush pens. They have a sort of stiff little nib at the end, a little bit stiffer than a lot of the other small brush pens that I've come into contact with, but that makes them really nice for tight, neat brush lettering, especially for, again, bullet journals or note-taking. Because they're so small, they can fit right into a normal lined or dotted notebook. And again, these come in a variety of colors, although I will say, at least the last that I checked, the Fudnosukis had a pretty small range of colors. As far as I remember, it was just kind of like tones of gray and then like the rainbow. But still, it's a great set to get started with, and they're really fun and wonderful to use. Lovely texture, 10 out of 10. This next item is going to be a favorite if you ever used gel pens like way back in middle school or high school. This is the line of Sakura Jelly Roll pens. Jelly with a G, not a J. These pens come in a bunch of different sets, but not quite like the way that other pens come in sets, which is a lot of other pens come in sets of colors. Whereas the Jelly Rolls, you can get glitter, you can get moonlight, which is these really neon, cool, bright pens. You can get the soufflés, which create this amazing texture when they dry. You can get a huge range of different funky varieties of the Jelly Roll pens, and they are so smooth and juicy to write with. They pop off of the page. So if you're going to be doing anything that's monoline, which is to say non-brush pen stuff, just single line stuff, then the Sakura Jelly Roll pens are a very lovely choice. And the last pen that I'm going to recommend is less of a pen, more of a marker, but it is the Uni, not sure, Posca bullet tip pen. These are really big chunky barrels that have this gorgeous opaque ink. I have found that it works really well with even very thin paper. It looks like it'll bleed through, and it doesn't tend to in my experience. And it just creates this extremely lovely texture when it's down. You can fill at like color in with these and create like big bold colors. You can get decently fine with them. But no matter what, the writing experience is really, really nice. And it's a really nice addition if you're going to be doing things with like bold, thick colors. You want things to really pop off of the page. These are a great option for that. Then the last thing that I'm going to recommend is not a pen, is not a marker. It is a Rodea dot pad. Rodea has a whole range of notebooks and paper pads that have dot grid paper, which I find dot grid to be the most useful for lettering because it gives you just enough structure to make sure that you're not like skewing way off of the page or doing anything weird and funky like that. It gives you that structure, but it's not super obtrusive and in your way the way that like normal grid paper is. I find that that's kind of, you know, it messes with the vibe, it messes with the look that you're going for. Same with like ruled lined paper. I just don't like the way it looks with my lettering. I mean, it's not to say you can't do it, it's fine practice, but if you want to have just like a practice notebook, I would definitely recommend a Rodea dot pad. Plus, of course, the paper quality is excellent for lettering. It works with tons of different pens and inks without any issue. This stuff was designed for lettering. It was designed for this purpose. So this is just my little batch of recommendations. There's obviously like tons of other pens out there, tons of other markers, tons and tons and tons of brands and individual products that are gonna be great for you. But this is just what I've used. This is what I reach for over and over again. And that's why I like recommending them to beginners, because they're really easy to grab and go, and they're fun and exciting, have lots of fun colors. Because you're beginning, you want this to be fun. This is an exciting hobby. You don't want it to be dull drills and lines and just kind of repetitive stuff, because you're, not gonna lie to you, beginning this new hobby, you're gonna have to do some drills, you're gonna have to work on your muscle memory. There's a lot of that. But that does not mean that it cannot be fun, and these materials, in my experience, have made the process feel a lot more fun for me. Now that I've shared all of my recommendations for you, I do have a few words of advice for you. Number one, don't try to get everything I just recommended. That would be a bit overboard for someone who's just getting started. Instead, I would suggest that you get one set of brush pens if you're getting into brush lettering. If you're not getting into brush lettering, don't worry about it. But if you're getting into brush lettering, just one set will do it. I would suggest Tombow dual brush pens to get started, but also, obviously, any of the others that I recommended they all have the green light from me. They're all great. Along with those, you should get at least one set of drawing pens or monoline pen. So yeah, just get one set of drawing pens. In my experience, I would suggest the Sakura Pigma Micron pens. Those are really, really great, and it's easy to build up from there. Just like with the brush pens, you can get whatever I just recommended, and it'll be fine. You'll do great. It'll be fantastic. So yeah, one set of brush pens and one set of drawing pens. And that should have you covered for like a long time. And then as you grow, as you get more into this hobby, you can add new things, you can build up your collection over time. There's no rush to go out and buy everything. My second tip is just more of a reminder. All of these new supplies can be intoxicating. They can be so fun. It can be thrilling to pull them out of the package and use them and make all of those bright marks on the page. It's wonderful. I won't deny that. It is the best. But you don't get better at brush lettering or hand lettering by buying more supplies. Having more supplies does not make you more skilled. Practice makes you more skilled. You need to do the work and do the drills and build up your skills over time to get better. That's just the way it is. So this is just a friendly reminder that practice is key. I hope you enjoyed these recommendations. New supplies are always just so much fun. I love talking about them, and I love learning about them and sharing them. The whole thing just fills me with so much joy. It's a super cool hobby, so I hope that you jump in and have a ton of fun. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you later.